All right, I have a guest roll from Ocie from California. I want to make this a new series of videos where, right, subscribers or photographers that I know a little bit, maybe from like a Discord group, right? I say, hey, send me a roll, not like your best roll ever, just like a roll out of your normal process, almost random, and give me a chance to develop it and edit it, give it some critique, constructive critique. Now, this was inspired by a few different things. So, one is I'm actually going to pull a quote out of a book I've been reading. So let's see. This is the book I've been reading. The Handbook for Contemporary Photography, written like 200 years ago by Arnold Gasson. And so I'm going to read a quote real quick. So he writes, and he's writing about like giving other photographers feedback and the importance of that. And so he says, it is easy to comment destructively. It is hard work to make a comparison and affirm creative possibilities. I like that little phrase there, affirm creative possibilities. Yet at the same time, recognize craft problems and seek their solutions. Affirmations will help provide energy to work out solutions. Even advanced photographers have difficulty with the materials. Unwillingness to recognize and analyze problems will merely inhibit growth. My experience is that there are lots of photographers that are good or great, and they want to be even better, right? It's an endeavor that becomes lifelong, and right we seek growth. And so I was like, well, maybe I can serve as some form of feedback for photographers out there. The other book that I'm reading, which kind of gave this idea to me, is this one, Joseph Kudelka Next, a visual biography by Melissa Harris. And I'm in the section where there's a lot of detail about Kudelka's relationship with Henri Cartier-Bresson, and also Kudelka's relationship with other artists and editors. And it's just got me kind of wishing I had more of that in my life, right? Kudelka would walk around with prints and show his prints to lots and lots of people and make notes on the back of them as people told them what they thought. And right, Bresson would bring all his photos to Kudelka and be like, "What do you think?" Right. So sort of wanting a little more of that in my life. One other little, next is one little bit about me, and then also a little bit about Ocie, the guest photographer here. So a little bit about me is that, right, I do sort of have my own biases, and these are just my opinions, right? I get that, like, think about music for a second, right? I can think, oh, I like good music, but I totally get that it's very subjective, and sort of everybody likes what they like, and that's just true, right? I can't tell somebody that they like bad music. But it's like, what's the but there? I mean, so all I can offer is like my opinion and right what I see in looking at these photos. And so it's fair to say that like it's just my opinion. And I do have biases, right? And I would say, just as kind of like a starting point, like I wanted to show a photo that represents a 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100 for me, right? This is like when I think of, the greatest photographs ever, right? I don't know that this probably isn't my favorite ever, but it's an example of like top of the top. And it says a lot about sort of my default editing style, right? It's sort of a joke that like, it's sort of a joke because it's half true, that I really like blacks and contrast and right, grain, right, film look, right. Now I'm going to go back to this book for a second, right. He says that, right, that sort of a interest in high contrast it's indicative of a new photographer, and sort of most of the time when photographers mature, they go for more full tonal scale photography and nuances and more whole spectrum of grays. And I don't know. I mean, I've been at this a long time, and I do appreciate both, but I go back to like look at Kudelka, and there's plenty of master photographers that never move in that direction. But I'm going to stop there. That's enough you need to know about me. You can watch more of my videos to get a sense of sort of my style. Now, let's go to Ocie. So, right, I just sort of an open invitation to again, some subscribers or people in Discord groups I participate in said, do you want to send me a roll and for me to critique? And I didn't really explain it all that well of what I was going to do. And Ocie volunteered, and I think that's amazing that he trusts me enough. And and again, it's like a whole roll, right? It's like nobody shoots 36 bangers on a roll, right? It's like, I don't want to say it's like having someone see you naked, but it's a little bit like, whoa, you're not just going to see my good stuff, you're going to see all my stuff. But I think there's a lot of value in right, I think it's very revealing of, well, we'll see here, right? I haven't actually done it yet, but to give someone feedback on a roll. So appreciate you, Ocie, for being person number one. All right, let's jump in. So what I've done so far is I've scanned them, and I've looked a little bit. But I haven't made any edits other than removing a couple of little blemishes. Right, he sent me almost a totally random roll. He's like, I don't even know what's on it. I shot it on my Rolleiflex with my Rolleikin 35mm adapter. I think it's tri-X, but it might be double X. I think I shot it at 400. No, he knew he shot it at 400. And he's like, I'll be just as interested as you to see what's on this roll, right? Which was sort of perfect for like what I was looking for, right? I didn't want somebody to try to send me a masterpiece roll. Although that'd be interesting too. Okay. So because I don't want this to be 10 hours long, I'm going to move quickly through the 36, and I'm going to limit myself to just using the levels tool to make just kind of peek at the negative, get some ideas of editing, and decide which photos I think are the best. And then I sort of have a goal of like maybe going from the 36 to like a 9, and then from the 9 maybe to a best 3, something like that, maybe a best 1, who knows. Okay. So here immediately, I love that this was the first shot, right? First shot on the roll. And it just, right, it's a Rolleiflex. Right? I don't have anything. I don't have a Rolleiflex. I just shoot your typical 35mm rangefinders. I mean, I would maybe be able to get this with like my like a sonar lens, but not really, right? This really shallow depth of field, a lot of smooth out of focus areas, but good sharpness. And this is a freaking dog, and he nailed focus here. So really good technical execution. I don't know how he got his dog to stay still like that. I think this is Hazel. Um, Now I know very little about Ocie. Right? I've never met him. I couldn't pick him out in a crowd. So this is already like right, I'm excited to look at these photos, and this could potentially be a keeper here, right? So I'm just gonna put a 1 star on that. I don't even need to play around with it. Like I want to come back to that. But here's the dilemma: is this one's pretty similar, and I might prefer it. I think I do prefer it. So the reason I think I prefer it is sort of this nice highlighted outline on the face, and then that nice, it's a little more of a background that sort of helps the face stand out. So I'll just kind of show that quickly with the levels tool, right? Something like that. And if I come over here and try to do something similar, right? Right, it ends up being a lot more gray tone behind him. Right, this one was super easy to make the face pop. So as much as I like this one, I think I'm actually going to give this 2 stars and say, hey, I like this one. This is one I would like to spend more time on compared to that. Another really good shot of his dog. I'm guessing he has a lot of pictures. I think this is his dog. Okay. Now he knows me well enough to know that I'm a sucker for this type of shot. All right. I think what he's seeing is these 3 windows, but also these 3 frames. It's sort of the way that they kind of stair step down, and you get this one that's sort of cattywampus at the end. I think what I want to do just quickly with the levels tool is to make those frames really pop. So something like that. Right, I think it kind of quickly gives an indication of where a direction for editing. It's interesting that I'm noticing a little bit of, I think, flare coming up here. Right, it'll be interesting to come back on that one. So I'm going to give that a 2. I think that'll be a first one to come back to. This one, see, he's got 3 in this here. And I think the reason he shot 3 is because he was wanting it to be nice and sharp, and he was maybe adjusting the aperture and the shutter speed to have some choices. And I think what he's drawn to is this, again, this one white frame that's a little bit off. And sort of a nice overall, right? A lot of sort of interesting things all through the image. And then but if I'm just looking at, right, technically, right, the first one I think is the sharpest, and then sort of I think he maybe stopped his lens down and then added some shutter speed, and ended up with sort of a soft, like a blurry image by the shot 3. And I can't really tell. 1 and 2 are pretty darn similar. I think maybe 2's even actually yeah, 2's a little sharper. So I'm gonna mark 2 as the one to keep, but I don't know that I like this one better than I liked that other one with all 3 windows. But again, just to kind of take a quick little peek. All right. Yeah, I mean it's a good image. I don't think, probably not a great image, but I'll mark it as a 1 for now. Okay. Now he told me he shot 400, and which was plenty of speed for outdoors. But now he's got a few that are indoors, and right, it's like, you had Tri-X, like why not shoot 800 or 1600 or even these, like, right, you can see that there's still detail, and like I could open up the bottom of her jeans some and into her hair. So that just tells me like he could have used a faster shutter or a little more stop down, right, and just let Tri-X do its thing, right. And instead, he sort of ended up with a little bit of a blurry photo, which I just don't think was his intention, right? I think at least to get the cat in focus or something. This one is, it's good. It's a nice photo, but I don't think there's quite enough compositionally to spend a lot of time on it. And again, it's a little bit of like nothing was quite in focus, and maybe it's a little bit of some motion blur. Which, sometimes photos can be great like that, right? There's a lot of my favorite photos are not sharp, right? They are blurry, and so it's sort of right, it's an underrated place for somebody to be creative. But again, I don't think compositionally this one quite has enough for it. Now here he's got his dog coming around the corner, which I think is cute, and the dog's face ended up a little blurry. I don't like this thing on the ground here, right? It's almost like a tag or something, and it's quite a bit of work to remove that. What if I come up here? I mean, that's something, right? I think there's, I don't know if he was trying to kind of have a little bit of blur. I'm gonna guess not, right? I think he sort of just got. It's always the trouble when you're shooting 36 shots on a roll is the speed's maybe not always what you want because you're changing scenes a lot. Which is why I often have 2 or 3, 4 cameras, right, with different speeds in them, and then I can go grab the camera that's got the film speed I want. This one, it's kind of the same story, right? Same story on that. Now this one, I'll just show you guys how I do this real quick. So this was just like maybe something that floated onto the film in between drying and editing. So I just grabbed the Huel tool, make it about as small as I can and still kind of cover it. And then, boop, it's gone. Right. Okay. This one is, again, I wonder where he was trying to focus. And I like the textures in the pillow. And I could I could imagine sort of an edit that kind of brings out more texture and uses some contrast but I sort of think that's again a little bit of another. Again, he's probably shooting wide open, and if you think about, right, you use the Rolleikin adapter, so you can use 35mm frame and a Rolleiflex. Like, it's basically like cropping into a medium format lens. I mean, it is, and so now your shallow depth of field is now really shallow. And I don't know the challenges of trying to focus in one of these and maybe, right, not daylight, right? This is inside. And now this one is, I sort of like all the pause here, right? That's nice. Right, if I just sort of like really make the pause the thing. And it's interesting to have him back here. I think it's a good idea. I think it could be executed better with a little bit of effort. So it's like, is that a good one? Yeah, it's a good one. But I think he could see this and say, that gives me some ideas for next time, and then go make a better one. Okay, this one, he knows, well, see, he didn't know, right? But this is I'm a sucker for this kind of stuff. So you got the shopping cart in this bush. You got this pole here with a rock on top. You got some sort of everywhere around the perimeter. You've got some interesting things. You got this sort of like right, this veiling flare coming in from the sky. I'm noticing that about the lens, right? It's a little susceptible to veiling flare. Okay, so right, again, just a quick little edit here. Yeah, so that's not going to be right. It's not the final thing, but just gives you a little more taste of where we're going with that. And I'm going to go ahead and just punch the next ones like with the same edits real quick. And then he's got 3, and I got to sort of, I think I definitely want to spend some time with what I think is the best of these 3. I like this one on the left because, right, I don't know, it's got the bush, the cart. I mean, I don't want to go through all the elements again. So that's strong. This one, the cart feels a little too far out on the side. Right, it's almost like he kind of brought in more of these maybe the branches here, and this whole window make the scene. I kind of wonder if maybe but I don't. I guess I don't like how much the cart got out of the scene. But on the other hand, as soon as you go to something like this, like the cart starts to dominate, and it becomes almost more about the bush. So I don't know. I sort of feel I'm torn between all 3 of these. So I'm going to mark them all as a 1. And I don't think I'm going to decide right now unless I can just go, right, there's that one. I think I like 1 the best. But I'm not going to decide. Right, you can just, this one gives you that sense that the cart's just been jammed in there. This one, the cart feels a little, this like pole thing feels too centered. And then this one, yeah, the cart, I like more kind of the angle view of the cart. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put that as the 2, but reserve the right to change my opinion. All right, he has some here. He's at a baseball game, and right, I like that he's thinking of using some foreground. Right, he's trying to use this guy's maybe his hat and his glasses, and that's a good idea. I don't think he quite landed one. Right, I can maybe kind of come in here, and still like I don't quite see anything in there that's one to keep. It's a good effort though. And then this one, that trash can is really bumming me out. So let me just see if I can, something where I can maybe make the trash can go away, and then sort of play up kind of just the shadows of that. Or what if I kind of crop differently? And then I don't know if this is his child. So I don't quite know the personal significance. But I do wonder why he stayed so far away and why he didn't go get closer. Yeah, this is all sort of the same theme. I don't know if he just wanted to stay seated or if he saw a framing here. Like you could almost start to see how all these framing elements do sort of add something to the photo, right? It's like there is sort of there is sort of a nice framing in the fence and but I don't know. I think the trash can's like, man, but he couldn't move the trash can. It looks like it might even be like tied to the thing, coming home, right? So that's, and if he wants to, with 35 millimeter film, like you can really crop in. Right, here's 100%, which is now maybe a good time to talk about, right, my development. So, whenever you're working, it's like a 36 shot. She wasn't quite sure what was on it. Mostly sort of a box speed treatment. So I went with Xtol diluted 1 to 2, 75 degrees because that was my room temp. Right? Um, that's a little bit of compensation on the highlights, a little extra speed, sort of a protect kind of the variety that can be on it, but with good sharpness. And Tri-X is especially for a 400 speed film, has good sharpness and fine grain, and good tonal range. So sort of went with just like a very safe treatment. And you can kind of see here, right? I'm 100%. Look at look at the tires on there, right? It looks really good. Looks really good. Here, right, he's one more thing about, like, I have no sharpness applied, right? Too much these days, right? There's like, you share out to something online, and then there's going to be somebody seeing it on their phone, and then their phone's going to try to sharpen the image, and then kind of a film grainy thing that's been sharpened multiple times can start to look like a cheese grater. So I try not to touch sharpness until I know my output, and if it's just going online, I don't apply any sharpening. I like, he found some cool shadows coming across some nice wood. So I like that, except I just don't think there's quite enough subject matter and composition to spend time on it. Right, and it's fair enough that when you're shooting 36, like, some of what we're doing is trying to get really great photos, and some of it's just like, we're playing a little bit and we recognize that we found something pretty good, and we're just going to take it because we don't always have to get the perfect shot. Now this one's pretty interesting to me because look how far away he is. Like, I'm thinking 10 feet, 15 feet from the bats, probably 15 feet from the bats. But if you get in here, right, there's actually out of focus areas. Right, so this is, again, like this whole plane is sharp with like the bats and stuff, but then there's out of focus areas. It's almost like this is shot with like a 75 millimeter lens or something. Again, it's the Rolleiflex, right? It's combined with that 35 millimeter adapter. It's a unique combination, right? This combination, like, that's a lot of sharpness through quite a bit of depth here, but then that a lot out of focus behind it. I like, the scene of the bats, right? That's anybody who played baseball growing up, like, this is like something that you remember, a strong visual impression from playing baseball. But I don't like that trash can, and then maybe it'd be better if there's a person in it, and the composition's not quite doing it for me. This one is, I actually really like how the baseball's like falling off, and there's a bit of a whiff, right? But it's not quite sharp enough, and it's maybe not the moment he wanted to capture. And I'm sort of interested in this like big flare that came across the lens, and also because, like, look at the shadows. So the shadows are like off to the right, and so it's just an interesting flare pattern. I don't know enough about that lens and coding or whatever, but okay. This one is, right, again, it's like, I like taking shots like this. I find them very pleasing to kind of look at, right? Kind of finding, you make it abstract, it's more about the shapes and the textures, and you can maybe crop into things and find a hidden gem. And this one has, I don't know, it has some components to it. It's not jumping out to me as a really great photo, but it is interesting. And this one too, same thing, right? It's like, right, these annoying window stickers. This one is no. I noticed that almost all these pictures are to me. It's like a vertical format, but that's just the Rolleiflex, right? It's like everything. I don't know if there are any where he turned the camera. And also, like, there's quite a few here where I don't like the 2:3 format. Like this one would be better as something more like this. And then, right, something more like. These types of textures, right? This is a good find of like, right, finding interesting light and sort of nice gradation and textures and shapes. So there's a little bit of something else, especially like this water spigot and that shadow and this sort of uneven line down here. So I guess I wish that he had sort of gotten in closer, and right, this sign sort of becomes a problem to me, and this whole top half is like, there's nothing up here really. I think the money was over here, right? And so to get a little more, I don't even mind the light kind of wrapping around the corner there, right? But then by the time I get that far into it, I do think kind of the 35 millimeter starts to maybe fall apart a little bit. Okay, this one, we've all taken this shot, right? We've all taken this shot. Maybe he's interested to see kind of the sharpness of the lens, kind of what it could do. I don't know if he was thinking that this would be a really interesting photo or not. Look at the histogram. It's interesting how much it looks like a mound. I think this one just kind of depends on a person's vision for it and how much they want to, right, kind of edit and crop in. But yeah. Now this one, I like. This one sort of offers some maybe unique creative possibilities on the edit. Right, it's like, how much do I want to just bring out the whites? How much do I want to make it more of a darker gray? And it's not jumping out to me yet what to do with it. But I do like that it's sort of, I think it's got a pretty good composition, and the kind of the combination of stuff that's in focus and out of focus. So I'm going to mark that one definitely as something to come back and play with, see what I can do. Here, reminds me of a lot of photos I've taken, right? The snaking hose can be really visually interesting if you treat it abstractly. I'm just going to quickly come in here and see if there's, I don't see. I think this one, I mean, it's a good shot, but again, it's one of those where this type of shot shows up a lot in life, and I think he can do better. But I totally get why he took it. All right. Notice all the out of focus around the sign, and again, it's impressive how in focus that fence line is. So like, kind of, if I make that fence line pop a little bit. Right. but I think it's like you start getting into the details of like the web, like the kind of, I don't want to call it a spider web, right? But like dust bunny stuff. And then this sort of like, what was this writing? You start kind of getting attracted to like, is it the writing that I'm supposed to look at? It says like gods or something. I do sort of like, I like a lot of shots where you use like the fence line as like a kind of an interesting framing element. There is something visually interesting about this, but I don't think it's kind of leaves you confused about what was he seeing and thinking. All right, so we got it looks like a pitcher's mound. I do like this sort of right, this place where it's worn down, and I also like this sort of foreground element here of this little plant. I think again the 2-3 cropping feels a little funny, something more like this, and then again trying to limit myself to just the levels tool for this first little go around. Something like that. Yeah, I mean that's sort of I think it's more interesting to somebody who has a little bit of a baseball background, right? This is like, oh, I know what this is, right? like that's the pitcher's mound. And I could probably do a little bit of editing. Yeah, I could edit and sort of make this one. There's a lot of room here for me to work with it. This one, right, back to I don't like the 2-3 cropping. I'm sort of interested in this one because the definition in the base turned out really good. And so if I like make this more about the clarity in the highlights and right, kind of get into the detail in there. Right, something like, yeah, quick edit here, but there's 100%. I start to like that. Yeah, so that's a possible keeper. And I think we made it to the last shot. So this is still kind of working the pitcher's mound. There are some interesting shapes back here, but I don't quite see. Gotta think about this one. This one's a little bit harder to see, but I still feel like there could be something. Right, if we. Oh, I see. I don't know. I feel like the separation from here to here is a little too great. There's just a lot of dead space in the middle. So I'm not going to go with that one. So now I'm going to pause the video and spend some time off camera doing a little more work. And I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So all I did was go back through them a little bit and pick 9. And it worked. It sort of fell out pretty easily. So I haven't done any more editing. I just picked the 9. So I'll show you the 9. This one. Yeah. I'll stop saying this one. Okay. Now I'm going to spend just a little more time sort of doing an edit. So this one came across pretty strong right there, right? It's like if I had to just be done, I'd be happy to be done. And I want to enjoy the lens here, right? This is beautiful. And then I guess I get curious about, right, sometimes this might be one he wants to frame and he might know like, oh, I'm going to frame it in a 5x7 or something, and he could come crop it differently. But if I'm just sort of thinking about there is no frame. Right. Do I just want to keep it all? I mean, it sort of works. There is this sort of like this see these highlights over here where there's some right, almost some like bokeh balls here, right? That's a little distracting. It's pulling me a little bit. So all I'm gonna do is just chill those out a little bit here. Just sort of subtle. Right. Nothing crazy, but they are distracting me. And then coming in here to the face, right? The face, because the face is like the most critical part, it's not, and if I have the time, right, just come in here with a mask, right? I might want to lighten his eyes just a little bit. Right, I'm sort of grabbing the lower tones of his face a little bit. Right, just maybe gonna see what would happen if I just opened him up a little bit more. And then, you know, what do I think about the overall tones? Do I want to swing it a little bit? Right, I could open it up. Don't like that as much. That gets too dark, right? And then if I just kind of roll around, somewhere in there. The overall contrast, sometimes I like to back out the contrast just a little bit, kind of the macro contrast, and then just kind of see here about, you know, trying to do a little bit of curve adjustment. Nothing, I'm not finding anything there really. I sort of liked just that macro contrast adjustment, something like that. And then I'll come into the high dynamic range and do a little bit of fine tuning. If I'm looking at like just sort of the deepest blacks, right, do I want to try to open those up just a little bit more? And sort of like bring all the grays down? I don't think so. Versus the opposite, that's sort of got high dynamic range ugliness. Sort of the natural, what the film did naturally is looking pretty good. Yeah, so a little bit of adjustment there on the highs. Now, if you're paying attention to what I'm doing over here on the left, just keep in mind that I'm working with a negative, so everything is inverted, right? Capture One sort of doesn't let you just say like, this is a negative, and then have all the tools work for you in a straightforward way. It becomes you just have to learn how to use everything inverted. So I don't know. I'm going to call this, you know, back to his face. I kind of wonder, I might just pop in a little extra clarity and just see what I think about that. So is that his face layer? Yeah, that's his face layer. No. I mean, I feel like I'm just picking at tiny little things here. I did notice kind of back here in the background. I don't know what this is about, right? You guys see a little bit of like, I don't know what that is. It's almost like I didn't wash my film or something got on it. I don't know what that is. Go away. All right. So I'm just going to call that one. I'm going to call that one pretty much ready. And then sort of, you know, what cropping do you want? All right, this one. Right, I'm torn about how long I want to spend on these because of, right? But I sort of like basically what I've got here. Right, I sort of like, there's a little bit of flare coming up top. I'd actually like opening that up a little bit. And then there's sort of a final question of, what do I want what do I really want out of that bush in the bottom? Right, do I want it to lose all its texture? Or more just to have kind of a dark dead middle, just kind of maybe the top of it. All right, that feels like a little too, I went too far, so I might back that out a little bit. All right, but I don't feel like I need that texture in there too much. Did I make the white frames pop enough? Something like that. And then I wonder about sort of, right, my scanning can create sort of a artificial vignette. And so I do a little bit of a touch to, often I kind of want to darken do a little bit of like a darkened vignette. But now the whole image seems a little dark, right? So I might bring out, ooh, I think I maybe found, that's pretty close, right? Pretty close. Here, I couldn't decide here, and so I was like, I'll just work with both of them. Notice that I'm on my histogram here. I am clipping, but I'm clipping stuff that's fairly boring, right? Just this high sky. Okay. I don't know, something, let's see. I'm going to work the sort of this shadow range a little bit. All right, this might be one where I need to work with some layers. I'm going to just subtly adjust the clarity on that, the clarity slider. And then I think pull some contrast out, macro contrast out. I could see this being one where I work with it and then I go back to the first version of it. I like the first version better. All right. Something like that. And I might come here and just throw those same edits on there. It didn't even really do much. I wonder about a different cropping too, right? It is, this one does feel like this high stuff is sort of not doing a lot. How far down can I go? All right, if I go this far down, that one limb becomes a problem, and I do want the window. I do like kind of getting in here a little more. All right, something like that. And then this one, it's like how much of this kind of, I kind of like the sidewalk. It tells that story of like this is where the sidewalk ended, and they pushed the cart off the end into the bush. So I don't mind that. Okay. This one I kind of wonder where the crop is. When I look on here, this is sort of interesting. Let's open it up for a second. All right, I'm going to open it up, but at the same time, I'm going to kind of punch the deepest blacks. Right, something like that. So just kind of getting in there a little more. And I did that to the whole image, which was a little risky. I don't know where the crop is. Something like that. So I don't know. I'm just going to go for it. This is one where like I kind of like having some stuff on the edges. I don't know that I want. I do sort of like that top shadow, right? So I'm just gonna do that real quick. See where it gets me. And then my white point needs to go for sure. Let's scoot that white point way over here. But now you can see the dilemma as I brought the whole image up too high. Move the midpoint. Dial back the macro contrast. Yeah, something like that. I almost feel like my white point could move even further over. And then I could bring this back again. All right. Here. You know, now that I look at it again, I sort of like this light up here in this long vertical pole. But the 2x3 is bugging me. You know, right, we're so far away from like framing, like just making 4x6 prints, right? It's like, so I don't stay that attached to specific ratios, cropping ratios. I know that sort of like a lot of people, like when they see it, they'll quickly be like, what's the ratio? What's the camera? And if you start getting into unusual croppings, it can become a distraction. I don't like that one black spot there. Okay. Here, let's see. I think I might just work this a little bit. Right, that main gray. It's like, do I want to make that a darker gray? I sort of like that. Or I can, I sort of like it a little darker. But I sort of want more, I want to stretch those values a little more. Right, so I think I want to kind of come to my curve here and just do a little bit more stretching of those dark grays on that part of the wall. Bring it up just a tad. My Easy 35 Veloy, right, has a little bit of vignetting presence. So I'm going to counter that. I want to fine tune those grays, those middle dark grays. I don't mind if my whites get a little punchy there. Something like that. And finally, my deepest blacks, I think I'm going to go like that. And then somehow it feels a little contrasty, so I might adjust the macro contrasts a little bit. And here's one where the clarity slider kind of plays a big role, right? So there's clarity off, and then there's like max clarity. Personal taste comes in heavily on that setting. I try to not go crazy on the clarity slider. All right, so something like that. Something like that. Yeah. You know, I think in my attempt to go fast here, I'm not doing a lot of layers. I might pick one at the very end to just do a little bit of layering work, although maybe this is the one. So again, it's tempting on a picture like this to just sort of like land your white point, your auto set your white and your black point, pick something in the middle, and then just say that's my image. A different approach is to like say like come in on an extreme here. I kind of like that. I mean, I'm just gonna allow myself a little bit of creative license, and then okay, and now I'm gonna add a layer here. And with the layer, I want to be able to lighten. I'm going to make it kind of large here. Not very hard. A little bit of flow. All right, that was way too strong. But you'll see here. I'm just going to kind of do a little light clicking here. And then I can dial that layer back a little bit. So I'll show you. Boom, boom. Just a little bit. Nothing crazy. Okay. And then back to whole image adjustments. Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to show a little bit of how we could go with maybe be playful with this one. Or maybe you decide you don't really want to go with that many high values. Right, you don't want to go up into the bright white, something a little bit flatter. I don't know. I'm going to stop there. This one, I kind of wanted to go in with a crop here like that. And then I thought I might try to, this if I think that if, speaking of the Veloy 35, if I was ever going to say, hey, this is a masterpiece photo and I really want to nail a scan, I'd probably not do the Veloy, because the Veloy does sort of have like this a little bit of a vignette. Okay. Now I want to make sure that this little plant gets to play, right? So I was imagining something more like that. A lot of dark grays. All right, call that good. And finally, this one again, I think it's like I almost want to make it a square crop just to play on the. It's a square, right? But now it's like, where is the square crop? Who knows? Something like that. And then, yeah, I really like just the way the base looks. I might throw in a circular vignette. I don't want to overdo it. Like, I feel like my blacks have gotten, I might bring out some of those blacks a little bit. Or should I crush them more? Something more, middle of the road there. And then sort of fine tuning, right? I could go with more like that, and then boom, kind of stretch out the tones there on the bass a little more. All right, I'm getting close. getting close. All right, so we went from 36 to 9, and now I'm going to try to quickly go from 9 to 3. What do you guys think? I'm going to just, so that's, I'm going to bump that one up. I like that one too. Man, this one's starting to feel too noisy. This one has more of a simplicity to it, so I'm going to move that one up. I don't know. I feel like I want to like dig harder on finding the right composition with cropping, right? Almost like that a little more. And again, I don't know that I've really given. It needs some like, I need to not lose these details, but there's other places where I want things to be darker. Right, I don't want this bush to be quite so bright. And then, I don't know. I'm gonna not bump that one up just because I feel too uncertain about the direction. This one, I'm also, I don't know, like the sign, and then just sort of like, I almost wish it, you know, right, come more over here, and I don't know, it's not. And then this one's nice, but not this one. I'm bumping that one up, and I'm bumping that one up. So now let's see where we got 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, some final thoughts here before I'm just trying to obsess with narrowing down, right? Beautiful shot. Beautiful shot. Nice work, dog Hazel. I think. Really like the cascading windows, like the frames, right? The air conditioner unit. The angles here, right? It's like, would it more of a straight on shot work? But at the same time, it's like I like the angle because it sort of helps accentuate the frames going down, yeah. Off camera, I'm gonna edit this one a little bit more. And then I don't know how much he saw that foreground element. I almost think he did because he included it in the shot. And then I really like this worn pitcher's mound, and right, another one I might touch up a little more. And it sort of works as like that large 4x5, like a traditional fine art type print, right? Big and 4x5. And then this one, and that's just, I really like, you know, even these little plants that are coming up on it. You know, it's impressive. It's an impressive lens, film, exposure, development. And I think those little plants coming up are actually pretty key. They really make it, they give it some good interest, visual interest. So I'm not just going to pick one. I'll leave it as at that set. And thank you, Ocie, for doing this. And I have more rolls coming my way, right? I think my vision for this is, I thought maybe once a week, but it is a fair bit of time, so it's not going to be weekly, but hopefully 1 or 2 times a month, I'll have a guest roll on my channel. Take care.